Man, these folks had one job, well, maybe two, and that was to pack this house and move and to stay out of the effing attic. And did they listen? Of course they didn't. And that's why we're going to discuss that in our review of this film coming to you right now.
Now, due to the slightly foreseen circumstances of not being able to stay out of the effing attic, Najir and I are here today to review this film titled Stay Out of the Effing Attic. It drops March 11th on Shudder.
That's right. That's right. You know, there's two parts about this film I want to kind of dive into. And, you know, first, I just want to quickly say that I thought the opening credits of this film was pretty dope. I set a little bit of a tone for me because I did not kind of know, like whenever I'm watching a film, it's always the idea of like what level of production I'm gonna get. So I think the opening credits, opening scenes clearly defines that. I thought the opening credits was dope. And then as far as production, I felt like this was a high quality independent film. And like when I say that, like the aesthetics of it doesn't feel big budget. The cinematography don't really feel big budget, but yet it's good. I thought it was shot really well. And there's definitely other aspects about this I definitely want to dive into.
I think one of the things that separates this film from like the higher budgets, lower budget, it's right in between, is we have some really good gore in here.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do on a tight budget. But, you know, the blood splatter was definitely healthy in this one.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And like, you know, before we kind of get into what the premise of this film, actually, I'll just bring in what the film's about. Yeah, you had these three folks who had a job. They're office movers or house movers. They had a job to go pack a house, and they had that was the job, and they also had one instruction with that job, and that was to stay out of the basement and stay out of the attic. But of course, curious minds of theirs would lead them into that, and would that lead to their demise? So, really quickly, I want to say about this as a personal connection to this. I remember when I first came out of college, I was trying to figure out where I was going to work. I took a job as an office mover. So that's a really, really hidden gem of my life right there. But I will say this. They legitimately hire people like these people in here. Like they're ex-cons. And so the way how they were, the conversations they were having with each other, what were like, you may question like, oh, the dialogue seems kind of corny and not real. Not at all. It was so real. It was giving me the nostalgia I did not want. Because I remember I just wanted a job just so I could make some ends meet before I ultimately landed my career. And I remember being in situations like this where it's you and it's these people who are fresh out of jail and they're talking all over the rainbow about things. And so like when I was hearing the conversation, I'm like, I know people would think like, this is corny, but like, no, if that might be the most authentic part of this film, without a doubt, that the conversation between the two ex-cons and obviously their supervisor, but the owner of the company, that dynamic is so genuine. It is crazy. I like, once this releases, I gotta send it to a friend because I know he's gonna be like, yeah, that's how it was at the job.
Hiring anybody under the sun.
Yeah.
And listen, 4 times the regular pay is tempting, especially for ex-cons who are trying to get their life together. They're trying to get a fresh start. Why would you turn that down?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is kind of creepy. The owner of the house that they're supposed to be moving is, I think, actually one of the leads referred to him as like the crypt keeper.
Yes.
Or the creep from a creep show, which was hilarious.
Yes.
Old aging dude. But hey, you know, times are tough, and you know, opportunities like this aren't readily available for everybody, especially ex-cons. So this guy's offering 4 times the normal rate to get your shit out and skedaddle. I don't know how much leeway you have to decline an offer like that, even if the dude is super creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought that added level of temptation or convincing was important because there was proof in the pudding as to why they should not take this job. But like you said, you know, one person, this is their first day, and it ultimately them, you know, needing extra money for whatever reasons, getting 3 times your pay for these jobs are significantly hard. Like I also want to premise this too. You're looking at the infrastructure, like how this movie is being made. You're like, well, you have a guy that's the owner, and he got these two folks who, you know, aren't bodybuilders, aren't like the biggest people, you know, not like a whole crew, but only 3 people to move an entire house in a day. That's a tough job, but I'm telling you, that's exactly how it is. So like, don't try to nitpick the things that like, there's no way this is real, because like legitimately the setup of this film initially is very, very surreal. These type of things happen. And I will say too, people do offer you incentives in order to like get the job done faster or a particular way. So like, I just wanted to make sure, like, considering, you know, the tone of this film, it seems to be a little bit over the pace at time. Like, it really is like, I'm almost sure this comes from somebody's personal life as well, where it was like, I definitely had this experience, you know what I mean? Until they got to the extremes, you know?
Right. I do think this film is kind of meta in a way. It's like really aware of itself. Yeah. And I want to bring it back, Najir, to the review that we did on what was the last review that we did? You're gonna have to put this out. Not the last one, but the one before.
Relic.
I want to jump back to Najir and I's review on the Relic. I made a comment that in that movie was one of the only times where I heard the main character say, "No, fuck this," and then try to dip. That rarely ever happens. Usually it's us, the audience, screaming at the television, "Don't go in there. Why are you doing this?" You know, of course, making stupid decisions has to drive the film some way. But I really did like how this film didn't hesitate on that at all. It made it very obvious that, you know, even though these people might be a little desperate for money, you know, ends need to be tied, but the suspicion is there. Yeah. Almost from the second that they walk into this creepy ass building, they know that there's something up with this man. It's not that they're completely blind in the situation and will walk into anything readily available, but you have to weigh your pros and your cons here. And I think that added to, you know, maybe a little subliminal message to the audience that, you know, this isn't as jokey as you think that it is. Yeah. And these characters are really aware of the situation that they're being put in. It just so happens to be super bad luck for them that they were correct in their suspicion. Yep. But yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, absolutely love the reservations of the character. With that even being said, I loved how enjoyable the characters were, considering that they all had different backgrounds, different demographic. I thought that made them all enjoyable in their different ways. And you know, Morgan Alexandria, who plays Imani in this, absolutely got in it. She absolutely held it down for the sisters. And I think that probably my favorite character of this, although I rooted for, you know, other characters at times, you know, I really loved her performance and how energetic it felt. And again, it felt so authentic to the nostalgia in my life that I don't want to recall. But at the same time, too, like I just want to reference that because I think that, you know, when trying to assess a film, you know, the first thing people want to know is like, you know, how either scary it is or how fake it is. And I think that the building of, you know, to the events of the film, I thought that the foundation that it stands on, I thought was really authentic, and I could almost bet that this comes from a personal experience with the director or the writer or such. And I will say this too, even, and I don't want to spoil anything, but even one of the characters kind of revealing his past and the way he did, I mean, that's so authentic as well too, because I'm telling you, people really will hide their lives under a suit and tie, and it will get revealed in certain situations as it did on this job. So like, there's a level of surrealism with this, I think, which I thought made the film enjoyable, not the most scariest, but like definitely an entertaining film.
Right.
So
I do think I want to, a little side note on the character Imani. She has potential, man. I saw, and I don't want to give anything away to the viewers, but she has a moment. She has a moment where she's, you know, kind of backed into a corner, figuratively speaking. But man, was there some scream queen potential in her. And I really hope that she gets cast in more horror films, because I was totally getting Saw almost at one point, that level of desperation and just pure raw fear from her character without losing her character identity. So yeah, shouts out to Imani. She killed it in this one.
Yeah, and I also love how the story gave all of the characters a moment to really give us a little bit of a little bit of insight of the psychology of the characters. So you kind of again you see the extreme differences of them. Again, we know from the beginning that they all come from from being ex-cons, but ultimately they're from different demographics. And then you see sort of say their motivation as to why they are on this job. Why did they take this job? And I thought that was really significant, because you kind of see how all of them in different situations, their means of survival and their means of strategizing. And again, I think that's for a short film that's only about an hour and 20 minutes. I thought the character build was done super well, to the point that I want to throw it to you and ask this, without spoiling, like, what is kind of your thoughts ultimately about how this film wrapped, and and like kind of closing notes about the film?
Well, I think for me personally, I was more a fan of the exposition than I was of the ending. Minus the gore. The gore was awesome, man. They didn't hold back at all. I didn't think this was going to be a gory type movie, but it took it there, and it did it gracefully. So the unraveling was kind of bonkers, especially from the exposition and how you build up these characters. You really can't see what's behind the door is behind the door. I would have liked a little more closure, instead of just killing and slashing, even though we all like that good stuff. But it was really, for me, in the exposition and seeing these characters navigate the typical, dude, this house is haunted. What do we do about it? Is it safe? Is it not? Are we crying wolf right now, or are we overreacting? What is it? I just can't stress enough how you won't see this coming. I mean, this is, I did not see this coming. I was thinking possession. I was thinking monsters. And in a way, you kind of get all of that tied into the central theme, that might be a little bit deserving of a trigger warning, a light trigger warning, just for the context of the situation. But I think it was done in a tasteful way. If you're like us, who can consider gore in any shape or form tasteful, it is. And definitely worth a shot, worth a watch. But just be open-minded, and don't kind of check out 20 minutes in, because the evolution of these characters and seeing how on their own, not even operating as a group dynamic, can kind of put the pieces together and trust their gut or not trust their gut. And I also really liked in response to the ending, how this film didn't really have a typical final girl format or final whatever format. Usually how it is with these kind of meta horror films is that you have a group of characters in the end or in the beginning, and they get picked off slowly one by one, and then you have the final survivor at the end. And this kind of navigates in a way that's different from that. So it's hard to make your predictions at the beginning, because that's going to be ultimately disregarded. But yeah, give this one a shot.
Yeah, I agree. Going into this, I kind of didn't know what I was expecting. I wasn't the most scared in it. The gore was good. I wouldn't say I was most on edge as far as like suspense, but I definitely was most on edge in regards to entertainment. I laughed, I cheered, I rooted. Mm-hmm. I tensed up a few times. I got a lot of that. I also thought that the ending leaves the possibility open for something, maybe a sequel, but I think it's really dependent on how successful the film is. Thus, that means that if this film is to end on that, and this is the end of the franchise potentially, then it's ultimately, I thought, was wrapped up in a good way. Also, there's a little bit of a stinger in mid-credits, which I think is significant as well. But overall, I thought all of the performances really catered to the film's narrative and really just what the story was doing. And I thought everybody complimented each other really well. So this is a film that I didn't have much of expectations. There was intrigue, and even with the curiosity of what it might be, it was definitely different from that as well too. So much like you said, it's one of the one like be kind of easy with it. You'll enjoy it. And I definitely, to my points I made earlier as well too, as far as the foundation of how this film is kind of built. And then I think you'll come out thinking like, you know what, I enjoyed that much more than I ever thought I was going to be, because and that's how I feel. I was like, wow, I did enjoy that. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I do think fans of the series The Collector, if there's any horror fans of that movie franchise, you might have a lot of fun with this one, especially as kind of a prelude to the new Collector movie that we're getting pretty soon.
Yeah. So anyway, Stay Out of the Effing Attic is dropping March 11th on Shudder. Folks, jump in the comments. Let us know what you thought about this film once you check it out. Definitely, if you were entertained, I want to know your thoughts. And would you be excited for a sequel after you watch this? Do you think that they need to finish up this story more? Is there more to be told, or are you cool with how it is left off? But nonetheless, folks, thank you so much for tuning in for this review, and we'll catch you all for more reviews very soon. Big old bell.